Everyone loves the idea of a good trilogy, right? Welcome to BingeMax. Today we're counting down some of the best trilogies ever made.
Boy, you are in for a show tonight, son.
So, whether you're a movie-holic or not, this list is going to stay with you for some time. Also, let us know in the comments section about the ones you've already seen and if you have more trilogy suggestions for us. The Dark Knight Trilogy. When Christopher Nolan was handed the keys to the Batmobile, he knew that the only way he could make a superhero movie was to do it as realistically as possible, which means no superpowers, no fantasy or science fiction, no standard comic book stuff. While 2005's Batman Begins did an excellent job introducing the new, gritty and realistic world that Batman would inhabit, it was The Dark Knight that fleshed this world out, gave it character and a flavor all of its own, while introducing a brand of villain in Heath Ledger's Joker that will remain among cinema's most iconic for as long as movies are being made. From the opening aerial sequence to an attack on Gotham's stock market to the destruction of every bridge out of town and a court governed by anarchy that sentences people to march to their deaths across a frozen river, The Dark Knight Rises is by far the most epic entry in the trilogy. Spider-Man. The first installment, 2002's Spider-Man, remains one of the best superhero origin movies, with Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker transitioning from put-upon high school nerd to overconfident hero at a steady and entertaining pace, all while learning some harsh lessons about responsibility along the way. Spider-Man 2 remains the trilogy's high watermark, and indeed one of the greatest superhero movies ever made, taking everything that worked in the first film and upping the stakes considerably. Alfred Molina also turns in a fantastic performance as the villainous Doc Ock, making this an easy film to go back and watch to this day. It's an acquired taste to be sure, but Spider-Man 3 is by no means a train wreck. It simply couldn't measure up to the ridiculously high standards set by Spider-Man 2. Back to the Future. Back to the Future does a remarkable amount of world building without putting the whole world in jeopardy. It's a story that revolves entirely around the lives of one family. Who didn't thrill to the story of Marty McFly, wannabe rock star, who goes 30 years back in time, saves his parents, and transforms his loser family unit into a happy, loving, successful household? He gets the girl, prevents his best friend from dying, and saves the day. Back to the Future Part 2 had impossibly high expectations to live up to, but its main story arc suffered from a lack of creativity and remake fever. Part 3 injected more originality into the mix, taking our heroes back to the Old West and relying less on repeating the same old story beats. But there's no denying that Back to the Future is one of the greatest adventures ever put in film. Iron Man. There would be no Marvel Cinematic Universe without Iron Man, so it's fitting that the core trilogy of Iron Man films are some of the better titles within the larger MCU franchise. The movie benefited strongly from the catharsis of seeing Downey overcome his own history and settle into a high-profile role that was the perfect showcase for his comedic and dramatic skills.
I am Iron Man.
Iron Man 2 is easily the weakest installment in the trilogy, suffering from a rushed production schedule. Still, Iron Man 2 did introduce us to Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, who would go on to become one of the MCU's most prominent female characters. Iron Man 3 is the best installment in the trilogy, successfully picking up Tony Stark's story from where it left off in the Avengers. Although this trilogy has been overshadowed by other Marvel films, Iron Man's golden faceplate remains the icon that defines the entire enterprise.